And it's great to have in the studio this afternoon Darren Purvis, who records under the name of Nemesis Uncle. Darren, welcome to Dean Radio. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Clive. Thank you for having me.
First of all, it's an absolute pleasure to have you down. We've been trying to have you down here for quite a few months, really, isn't it?
Yes, there's been a few mishaps.
Yes, yeah. COVID got in the way and other things, but it's lovely to have you down here in the studio this afternoon. Described, and I'm only going on what's online, because I think people will decide once they've heard the music, as alternative dark acoustic rock. Darren is a multi-instrumentalist here from the Forest of Dean. How would you describe your own music, Darren?
Eclectic, interesting, a bit challenging.
Okay.
Melodic.
Yeah, now that's the thing that I would agree with you, because when I first heard your music, I thought, yeah, it will slot in on this programme because it is melodic. There's a tune there that people can recognise. So thank you for coming down to join us this afternoon. We'll find out a little bit more about yourself and how long you've been going and instruments, and also the question that everyone wants to know is how you got your name. But should we do a song first of all?
Yes, yeah, that's good.
What are we going to have first of all then?
I'm going to have a little rendition of The Sword. I found me in darkness, my Lord. I know I am helpless. I never asked for your sword. I know there is danger, and danger will be through shadows and wandering. I don't ask for company. I travel in lonesome all day through tonight. I learn how to follow my own guiding light. Why don't you see the beauty in me? Why don't you see the beauty in me? I know you are near me, but never do you glow. The landscape, it changes. I outgrow all I know. These desolate journeys, when wading through war, my silence is comfort. Still no sign of your sword. Why don't you see the beauty in me? Why don't you see the beauty in me? Why don't you believe in all I can be? And why don't you see the beauty in me? I found me in darkness, my Lord. I'm no longer helpless. I never asked for your sword.
And that's where we have no audience to applaud you, but that's brilliant. That's a great song. And we've played the recording of that on the programme on many occasions. And live, Sounds very, very similar. There's not really much difference apart from, I guess, when you're recording, you've got the benefit you can do a few more layers and you've got a few loops that you can put on there.
Yes,
but that's basically very much the song that we've played the recording of on air, isn't it?
Yes, no, it's useful. I mean, it's different when you're recording in a studio or in your own studio. You can add more instrumentation, but equally it works well as an acoustic, just on its own. It just, yeah.
So where would a song like The Sword come from? Where was it that you got the idea for that song? Is it the riff that you came up with first of all, or was you thinking about the imagery in the song, or whatever?
I think it started off as the riff, and to be honest with you, Clive, it just happened. I know it might sound a bit cliche, but
No, that's fine.
The idea of the song really is about someone who's needing help but is refusing help,
Yeah.
but then is resentful there is no help.
Okay.
So it's about someone who's on a certain type of journey,
Yeah.
but thinking that externally someone's going to help them, but actually they've got to help themselves
Right.
to get from point A to point B.
Okay. Okay. Well, a great song, a great way to open our set with Nemesis Uncle Darren Purvis here in the studio this afternoon. I've got to ask the question that you're probably dreading people asking. The name, where does that come from? It's a great name.
Oh, thank you. You're trying to get me to give away my secrets, I think. It's an interesting name. It was a song that I wrote a long time ago. So I was in a band previously called Germinal. That was like a alternative rock band. And there was a song we used to do called Nemesis Uncle.
Okay.
So when I decided to go and do my own stuff, that's the name I sort of chose.
Okay.
But the origins of the name, if I'm to be honest with you, I've probably never told anyone this, it kind of does refer back to my uncle.
Okay.
And that he was always very good at outwitting and outsmarting my father. And that's kind of where it evolved from, really.
So he really was the Nemesis Uncle.
He really was, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So this afternoon we're hearing Darren on guitar and vocals, but you're described as a multi-instrumentalist. So what other instruments do you play, Darren?
So I can play the keyboards.
Okay.
Self-taught, really. Yeah. Bass guitar, harmonica.
Okay.
I'm quite a mean blues harmonica player.
Okay.
I can tend to adapt to most instruments. I've got a ukulele.
Okay.
A bit of percussion.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it comes from.
And the tracks you record yourself, or do you go to a studio to record? Or?
I've got my own little home setup, home studio.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Brilliant.
I do all the recording myself.
Brilliant. Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, previously we would go into studios, but it's nice to have that kind of control, to be honest with you. And you can take a lot of time to get it right, rather than going in and out over a weekend and coming away with something you think, well, what's this?
Yeah.
You need further mixing.
Yeah. And at the end of it, you can probably say there's going to be no better judge for the music than yourself, because at the end of it, you could say, yes, that's exactly how I want it. A third person is always going to perhaps add their own little twist to it, but it might not necessarily be what you want.
No, absolutely. And I'm just going from my own experience. That used to happen quite a lot. So it was good to kind of be in control of that process and have the time to reflect back on what you'd recorded and whether you were happy with it.
Yeah.
Whereas previously you'd be in and out of the studio, you'd have a demo or something and think, I'm not happy with the sound of that. So, yeah.
Okay, well, Danny's just going to take a quick swig of water because it is all live this afternoon, and then I'm going to ask if he'll do another song, and what are we going to do this time, Darren?
This is a song called Without Love. It's quite an old song, but it's one that's featured on the expanded edition of the new album.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's called Without Love.
Okay, this is Nemesis Uncle on Dean Radio.
We see the rain fall on the cathedral. You speak again, but words fail all. Keep it unsaid. Save this breath. There is nothing to be gained without love. We feel the moon curl like a bloody claw. I ask you for wisdom, you ask for sorrow. In between tears, we've said it all. There is nothing to be gained without love. I move further from pity, I move closer to you. There is nothing to be gained without love. Blow by blow, wind you chime, I see your face from time to time, slowly drowning, the river feeds. You sleep inside me like a disease. There is nothing to be gained without love. I move further from pity, I move closer to you.
The music of Nemesis Uncle and the track called Without Love. And you mentioned that there is an album that people could maybe get a copy of or hear tracks from. So the website that I was checking out is thinkexistlisten.com.
Yes.
And that's got quite a lot of your songs on there, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's the main website.
Okay.
So I kind of release everything under my own label, and that's the label website.
Okay. And what about, do you ever take your music out and perform to people outside of the studio, or is it more of just a studio project?
It did start off initially as more of a kind of online experiment.
Okay.
To see what would happen.
Okay.
So I thought I was going to do things a bit differently.
Yeah.
And let's just see what happens and does it work online or not. And just gradually over the years it has steadily grown. So recently I've been uploading some live videos, and the plan is at some point to go out a bit live.
Okay.
But I'd like to be able to organise that myself and put on my own shows.
Sure.
I mean, I could turn up to an open mic night or something, but I don't know. I'm stubbornly independent, really. I think I'd like to do it myself and be at that position where I could have a small, intimate audience.
Sure.
That would be good.
I think I've got to be careful how I phrase this, but talking to people, bands that have come down here, I know that a lot of the bands that are playing really hard on the local gig front here, if they're playing a venue, a lot of the time they are driven by the fact they have to play music that people are 100% familiar with. So they go down the mix of like 75% covers and maybe space for their own material.
Yes.
Now, with yourself, you're doing your own material,
Yeah.
so you're really saying to people, come and listen to my songs, rather than I'm going to be there and be like a human jukebox.
Yes, no, it is very difficult, and I've been in that position before where you just go out and you play your own stuff. Everyone's talking, everyone's drinking, things are going on in the background, and it's nice to get out there, but you do walk away with a sense of feeling unappreciated or listened to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do the online thing to start off with, just to see if it does work. Can you generate something through this medium.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to be at a position where I do play live, but similarly to those bands, it is frustrating when you put in so much effort and so much work and you turn up to a venue and half the audience are just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
You might get a couple of people who are into it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes there's pressure on musicians as well to bring their own audience along to some venues. So yeah, it's a tricky one. There's a balance there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to have a couple more songs from Darren. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes' time with some more music from Darren, Nemesis Uncle, here on Dean Radio. And it's 18 minutes away from 5 o'clock. We have the pleasure of Darren Purvis joining us here in the studio, who records under the moniker of Nemesis Uncle, and he's here in the studio this afternoon. Another question, because I'll be intrigued by the answer because I'm not entirely certain myself. What was influencing a young Darren, and what influences you now as a singer-songwriter? What sort of artists do you listen to that have inspired you? Because as far as I could see, it's a fairly unique sound that you're going for. So, but what's been influencing you in the past?
So I started playing the acoustic when I was about 15, and I was learning a lot of Simon and Garfunkel songs, and that really was the start of it, to be honest. And then I moved on to things like Bob Dylan for a short period of time, and then that evolved into Leonard Cohen, and then sort of moved into more Delta blues. I was like a big fan of Delta blues. I listened to a lot of that. Sort of Skip James and
so bearing in mind, you know, who are broadcasted to, so a few influences there from Delta Blues, because that's probably not a style of music that will be familiar to people as Bob Dylan, say, or Simon and Garfunkel. So this is really sort of traditional American blues music.
Yes. So people telling stories, playing acoustic guitar, talking about their experiences, going back to sort of 1920s, maybe even earlier than that. There's some people like Leadbelly and Skip James and Blind Willie Johnson, Son House. So it's a daily listen for me, a lot of that stuff, to be honest with you. But then I also like a lot of more alternative bands like the Swans and the Tindersticks, more kind of recent bands. So there's an amalgamation there of a lot of those influences.
And at your disposal now in the studio, you've got technology now, haven't you, to record and just really build a song up from the basics, voice and guitar, to something that, as I've said to you before, and I've played your music before, it's got a very atmospheric sound to it, and also I think it's movie soundtrack type music. You know, it's on that sort of scale. You know.
Yes, I think so. I don't know. I think so, but no, thank you for saying so. It's just what comes out sometimes. But I like soundscapes. I like how blending different sounds together. And I always try and do something a bit different with the songs. I'll try and bring in some of the influences and things that I like. So, but I am currently working on another album, and it sounds very different. So maybe that's part of the issue. I don't have that straight linear thing, but
that's perfectly okay, isn't it? Because
I think it is.
You know, you can go down that sort of route, and every record is different. There's always a slightly different tinge to the recording. So yes, you can do that. So what are we going to do now as our third song this afternoon?
A song called Reasons. There are so many reasons, I only need one. To walk away from the darkness you have shown. And there are so many reasons, I only need one. When death misshaped us, we felt like fools. You had to be cruel. There are so many reasons, I only need one. To walk away from the darkness you have shown. And there are so many reasons, I only need one. When love reclaimed us, we sailed in grief. We drowned and I said I'm intrigued. There are so many reasons, I only need one. To walk away from the darkness you have shown. And there are so many reasons, I only need one. The moment, the second you talk, I don't listen. The moment, the second you talk, I don't listen. The moment, the second you talk, I don't listen. The moment, the second you talk, I don't listen. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Again, the music of Darren Purvis, Nemesis Uncle on Dean Radio. At about 10 minutes away from 5 o'clock. Been terrific having you down this afternoon. Really enjoyed having you down here in the studio. Now, a few weeks ago, you sent me a cutting, a release from America, a review of one of your tracks. It's The Sword, wasn't it? I think.
Yes.
Which was the first song that we had this afternoon. And I was just thinking, whilst you were singing a few moments ago, that for an artist nowadays, and a bit like us doing our radio here, the audience could be anywhere in the world. You're not just performing to the Forest of Dean, are you?
No, and I find that particularly through a lot of the streaming that goes on. If I'm trying to develop a local audience, it's tricky because when I look at the stats for what's going through a certain streaming service, everyone's all over the world. And I mean, and that's the good thing about it. I mean, I think there's pros and cons for making music in that way, but you are appealing to more of a global audience.
Yeah.
So and it's fascinating, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know.
It was a lovely review. I seem to remember from just across the pond in the US. Someone had heard your music and had written about your song, The Sword. They had no preconceived idea of what you should be sounding like, but they just heard it and liked it.
Yes, yeah, and it's nice when that happens. There's a bit of validation there, to be honest. So. Yeah, because I'm fully aware I'm not sort of fitting into the mainstream really. But when somebody does like it, they like it. You know, it's good.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a good thing.
Brilliant. Well, if you want to find out more and check in on some of Darren's material, thinkexistlisten.com is the website that you should go to, and there's plenty of music there, and find out a little bit more about what Darren is up to. We'll do one more song then, if that's okay. So what are we going to do next?
Yeah, this is a song called Exit Before The Gallows.
Okay, so another cheery one.
Another cheery one. Sorry. No, that's good. Cheery one for Sunday, bank holiday.
Yeah, sure. So the inspiration behind this?
So this is a song about... the inspiration behind it is it was kind of inspired a bit by those old kind of spaghetti western movies where you've got a stranger who kind of enters into town.
Yeah, enigmatic stranger.
Yes,
yeah.
And then they've got to leave the town, and then they go to another town, something else happens, they've got to leave there.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of the title is they're trying to get out before they get lynched.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it's the Wandering Stranger.
Brilliant.
Okay. Go silent in drifts of snowstorm. Behind the rain, the hill fog descends, the mountains change. They shift and they change. There is no peace on the inside. The landscape cracked open and dry. There is a plan. There is always a plan. There is always a plan. I see the fear within your eyelight. I see through you, you with something to hide. You have a plan. There is always a plan. There is always a plan. To find an exit before the gallows. To find an exit before the gallows. Go silent in drifts of snowstorm. Behind the rain, the hill fog descending. A great distance is now between us. The hollow echo toward the end. Seeking an exit before the gallows. To find an exit before the gallows. Seeking an exit before the gallows. Exit before the gallows.
Exit Before the Gallows, the music of Nemesis Uncle on Dean Radio. I just closed my eyes whilst that song was playing, or whilst you were singing that song, and yeah, I could imagine you, enigmatic stranger, wandering from one town to another.
Thank you.
Wrecking a bit of havoc on the way, you know.
Yes, or maybe it's havoc they haven't caused.
Exactly.
They've got involved in someone else's havoc.
Exactly. Is that a track that you've already recorded, or is it...
Yes, it's going to be on a new album.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
It was already, I'd done it with a band previously. There is a version of it online.
Okay.
From several years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a new song to come out.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, Darren, can I thank you so much for coming down? It's been so worth persevering and getting you down here in the studio. I did wonder at one point,
is he going to turn up?
He doesn't actually exist. Because, no, we had one, I think we had, you've had COVID, you've had slight problems with your teeth or dental issues the last couple of weeks or so. And I thought, is this ever going to happen? And I think your son wasn't well, wasn't
yes,
for a little while. So it's just been everything all at once. But it's been so nice to get you down here in the studio this afternoon. Do come down and see us again.
Yes, I will do. Thank you.
And if we can do anything to help promote you, just let us know. We'll be more than happy to do that. Once again, if you want to find out more, check in on the music of Darren. Go to thinkexistlisten.com, and there you'll find recordings of several of the songs, some of the ones that you've heard on this programme this afternoon, and we will carry on and play some more music from Nemesis Uncle on future programmes. Darren, thank you so much for coming down to join us.
No, thank you, Clive. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent.
I enjoyed it, actually. So.
Excellent. Well, we've enjoyed it as well, and we look forward to having more live music on this programme in weeks to come.
Across the forest on 95.7 and 105.6 FM, this is Dean Radio.